Okay, for 799, they give us a function, f of x equals 3 times 2 to the x. It's an exponential function. And for a, b, and c, they just want us to put in values for x. So for a, they're asking us what f of -1 is, which means we substitute a -1 in for x. So 2 to the -1 power is 1 over 2 to the +1 power, or 1/2. So this comes out to be 3/2 for f of -1. Okay, so there's part A. For part B, they want f of 0. So f of 0 is 3 times 2, and x is 0. And for this one, we have to remember that anything to the 0 power is 1. So this is just 3 times 1. So f of 0 equals 3 for that one. And for C, we want f of 1, and that's 3 times 2 to the first power. So f of 1 equals 3 times 2, which is 6. Okay, so A, B, and C are pretty straightforward. It's just substitution. Okay, so let's move on. Let's make some space. I'll clear this out. And D is saying, what value of x gives f of x 12? So they're asking us, for f of x to be 12, what does x have to be, right? So 12 divided both sides by 3, right? 3 times 2 to the x over 3. This 3 cancels. So 4 equals 2 to the power of x. And we know that 2 to the power of 2 is 4, so therefore x equals 2. So x would be 2 for this one. Okay, and moving on, let's make some space for E. E is saying, where does it cross the x and y axis? So they're looking for the x and y intercepts. So let's rewrite this function as y equals 3 times 2 to the x. That's a little easier to think about. So first they're saying, where does the graph of the function cross the x-axis? When it crosses the x-axis, that means y is 0. So y equals 3 times 2 to the x. Divide both sides by 3. So 0 equals 2 to the x. When does 0 equal 2 to the x? What value of x would make the right-hand side 0? And the answer is nothing would. So in this case, the graph does not cross the x-axis. So the x-intercept is none, right? It never crosses the x-axis. Now let's do the same for the y. So for this one, y equals 3 times 2 to the 0, right? We want to know when x is 0. And this one we did already, right? It's y equals 3 times 1, right? 2 to the 0 is 1, so y equals 3. So the y-intercept equals 3. So the y-intercept is 3, and the x-intercept, there is none because it never crosses the axis. Okay, and the last one, part F for this problem, let's make some space. They're giving us another function, g of x, and we already have f of x, and they want us to find f of x times g of x. So f of x is 3 times 2 to the x, and they want us to multiply that by g of x, which is down here, which is 1 over 3 to the x. 1 over 3 to the x. So if we wrote this in a little different form, we would have this, 3 to the x. The 3's cancel. That's quite straightforward. And what we're left with is 2 to the x power over x, which we cannot simplify. So therefore, f of x times g of x comes out to be 2 to the power of x over x.